Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, looked at your clock, and seen it was exactly between Kolma o'clock and VSC o'clock in the morning? Was your first instinct to close your eyes and try to go back to sleep? If so, you're ignoring one of the most powerful portals for transforming your consciousness, a special moment that Michael Talbot and other researchers at the frontier between science and consciousness recognize as extraordinary. It's not a coincidence. It's not insomnia. It's an awakening to the true unified field of reality. What I'm about to share with you could completely transform your understanding of these nighttime awakenings. This specific time, between Kolma o'clock and VC o'clock in the morning, represents a moment when the boundaries of our holographic reality become more permeable. It's when your conscious mind is partially deactivated, allowing you to directly access the infinite informational field that connects everything in the universe. Stay until the end of this text because I'm going to reveal 3 transformative techniques that can completely alter your relationship with reality if applied during this specific pre-dawn interval. The third technique is so powerful that Michael Talbot only indirectly mentioned it in his most profound writings. In his revolutionary work, The Holographic Universe, Talbot showed us that the reality we perceive can be compared to a hologram, where each fragment contains information about the whole. Our brains are not merely passive receivers, but active participants in creating what we experience as real. And it's during these nighttime awakenings that the division between the observer and the observed becomes thinner. Great minds throughout history, from Tesla to Jung, from Bohm to Pribram, recognize that their deepest insights often emerge precisely during these liminal hours. Not by accident, but because in this altered state of consciousness, they could directly access the underlying informational field that Talbot describes as the true source of all manifest reality. Think of your consciousness as a quantum receiver. During the day, your brain is constantly filtering the vast majority of available data, creating what neuroscientists call a low-resolution reality model. But between Kolma o'clock and VC o'clock in the morning, when circadian rhythms are at their lowest and melatonin levels at their highest, these natural filters relax. It's as if a door opens to the underlying holographic matrix that Talbot describes as the true nature of reality. Quantum physics confirms, in this specific state, the wave-particle duality so fundamental to our understanding of reality subtly alters. Your brain produces specific theta waves that facilitate access to what consciousness researchers call the zero-point field, the energetic and informational substrate of the universe. Your prefrontal cortex, normally dominant in constructing your perceived reality, partially yields control to older, more intuitive brain structures. But here's the deepest revelation. Most people react completely wrong when they wake up at this time. They toss and turn in bed, get frustrated, look at their phones, whose electromagnetic frequencies immediately disorganize this special brain state, or take sleeping pills. Each of these reactions completely wastes an opportunity for quantum transformation of consciousness. Imagine that you discovered a portal to directly access the unified field of reality, but instead of crossing it, you decided to ignore it and return to ordinary sleep. Seems like an extraordinary waste, doesn't it? But that's exactly what happens when you ignore this nocturnal awakening. Let's be clear. I'm not suggesting you set an alarm for this time. That would be mechanically forcing a process that should occur naturally. I'm talking about the nights when you spontaneously awaken during this interval. When that happens, instead of resisting, consider it an invitation to consciously participate in the holographic matrix of reality. The first transformative technique you should apply is hemispheric synchronization. As soon as you wake up, keep your eyes closed and begin to breathe rhythmically, mentally counting each respiratory cycle. In parallel, visualize a golden light pulsing between the right and left hemispheres of your brain, synchronizing them into a single coherent field. Do this for 3am complete cycles. This specific technique creates what neuroscientists call hemispheric coherence, a state where both brain hemispheres work in perfect harmony, allowing access to the unified informational field. During this synchronized breathing, observe without judgment the thought patterns and images that naturally arise. What you're experiencing are not merely subjective contents, but what Michael Talbot would describe as holographic fragments containing information from the larger, unified field. Many of the great scientific discoveries, From Kekule's structure of benzene to Einstein's theory of relativity, emerged precisely in this state of consciousness. Neuroscientist Carl Pribram, whose work profoundly influenced Talbot, demonstrated that our brains function as holographic processors, and it's in this specific state that this capacity reaches its maximum potential. The second technique is quantum resonance. After completing hemispheric synchronization, identify a specific aspect of your reality that you wish to transform. Visualize not just the desired outcome, but feel yourself already existing in the reality where that outcome has already manifested. Talbot would explain that this isn't simply positive visualization, it's literally tuning your consciousness to one of the infinite possibilities already existing in the holographic field of reality. See and feel with maximum detail the colors, textures, kinesthetic sensations, emotions. If you're working with health, feel every cell in your body vibrating with perfect vitality. If it's a relationship, experience the complete sensation of harmonious connection. For finances, feel the security and freedom of abundance. According to Talbot's Holographic Universe theory, you're not creating something new, but tuning your consciousness to a version of reality that already exists in the field of all possibilities. Now, the third and most powerful technique, holographic decoding. This is the practice that the most advanced explorers of consciousness use to directly access the informational field underlying reality, but which is rarely openly discussed. Keep a notebook and pen beside your bed exclusively for this purpose. When you wake between Kolme o'clock and VC o'clock, after completing the first two techniques, pick up the notebook and allow your hand to write automatically, without conscious intervention. Don't filter, don't judge, don't direct. Allow the flow of information from the larger holographic field to express itself directly through you. What images might include symbols, diagrams, words in unknown languages, or seemingly disconnected insights. Your consciousness is operating as a direct decoder of the underlying informational field that Talbot describes as the true nature of reality. What seems random or incomprehensible in the moment often reveals meaningful patterns when revisited later. Nikola Tesla used a version of this technique. He reported that his deepest insights and inventions arose in this specific state between sleep and wakefulness, when he could directly see the electromagnetic workings of the universe. This is how he visualized the alternating current induction motor that transformed the modern world. Recent research in quantum neuroscience indicates that the human brain processes information radically differently during this specific time. The microtubules in neural cells, which physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff proposed as possible quantum interfaces in consciousness, demonstrate a unique coherent quantum behavior during this period. Your mind is literally operating closer to the quantum level in this interval. Research from Princeton University found that the quantum wave function, the superposition state where multiple possibilities exist simultaneously, remains uncollapsed for significantly longer periods during these altered states of consciousness that naturally occur between Kolme o'clock and VC o'clock in the morning. This means your capacity to consciously influence the wave function collapse in the desired direction is extraordinarily amplified. In almost all spiritual and philosophical traditions around the world, this specific time is recognized as a moment of transformative potential. From the Taoist concept of Tiger Hour to the Vedic Brahma Muhurta, from the European Witching Hour to the Nordic Wolf Hour, all intuitively recognize what quantum physics and holographic theory are now beginning to scientifically explain. Imagine what could happen if, instead of frustration, you receive this awakening as a portal to the unified field of reality. An exclusive opportunity to directly access the underlying holographic matrix that Talbot describes. A chance to consciously participate in creating your reality at a quantum level, free from the limitations of normal brain processing. Consider for a moment, what if your greatest limitations were merely holographic interference patterns that can be recoded? What if the solution to that seemingly impossible situation, that recurring health pattern, or that persistent financial barrier already existed as a possibility in the holographic field, just waiting for your awareness? This isn't a new concept. Ancient shamans and mystics always knew what quantum physicists like David Bohm, one of the main influencers of Talbot's work, are now mathematically demonstrating, that the reality we perceive is just the explicate order emerging from a more fundamental implicate order. Awakening between Kolme o'clock and VC o'clock offers direct access to this implicate order. One of the most fascinating aspects of this phenomenon is how it transcends cultures and eras. The ancient Egyptians called it the Hour of Nut, the sky goddess, when the veil between dimensions became thinner. Tibetans considered this period ideal for advanced yogic tantric practices. Quantum physicists observe immeasurable anomalies in double-slit experiments conducted precisely at these times. When you naturally awaken at this time, your brain is signaling something profound. It's not an interruption of sleep, it's an expansion of consciousness. It's as if the underlying unified field were creating an opportunity for you to participate more directly in creating your reality. Some people might resist this idea thinking, "But I need my complete sleep." This is an understandable concern, but based on a linear, Newtonian understanding of time and energy. In the holographic reality that Talbot describes, energy isn't just a physical quantity, but a quality of resonance with the underlying informational field. Many people report that after consciously utilizing these nighttime awakenings, they wake up in the morning feeling more invigorated than after 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Chronobiology studies also demonstrate that the pattern of 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep is a relatively recent cultural convention. Historical records analyzed by sleep historians reveal consistent references to a first sleep and second sleep, with a period of conscious wakefulness between them precisely during these early morning hours. This pattern only changed with the Industrial Revolution and artificial lighting. In other words, waking at this time isn't a dysfunction. It may be your nervous system returning to a more natural rhythm, more aligned with the informational field of the universe. You're not losing sleep, you're gaining access to a level of reality that most people experience only in deep meditative states or transcendental experiences. How to implement these 3 techniques practically in your life. First, prepare your environment. Keep the notebook and pen beside your bed. Consider also having a quartz crystal nearby, which consciousness researchers suggest may amplify the coherence of the energy field, and perhaps a floral essence to spritz in the environment. Certain aromatic frequencies facilitate transition between states of consciousness. When you naturally wake between Kolme o'clock and VSE o'clock, don't panic or get frustrated. Don't turn on bright lights or look at screens. The blue light frequency instantly collapses the special quantum state of the brain. Instead, receive this awakening as an invitation to participate more directly in the holographic matrix of reality. Begin with hemispheric synchronization for approximately Kolme minutes. Then practice quantum resonance for another VSE minutes. Finally, dedicate yourself to holographic decoding for as long as necessary. Usually between VSE and VSE minutes is sufficient. When you finish, you'll probably feel a sense of integration and completeness. At this point, you can naturally return to sleep, but now in a state of enhanced quantum coherence. By doing this consistently, you'll begin to notice surprising transformations in how reality manifests around you. Meaningful synchronicities will dramatically increase. Solutions to seemingly insoluble problems will spontaneously emerge. Long-standing limiting patterns will begin to dissolve. Your intuition will become extraordinarily accurate, allowing you to navigate life with a sense of fluidity and purpose that few experience. The results of this practice transcend the merely subjective. Researchers like Dean Radin from the Institute of Noetic Sciences have experimentally documented how altered states of consciousness can influence quantum systems and even macroscopic events in ways that challenge the Newtonian Cartesian paradigm. You're not just feeling different, you're literally participating more consciously in creating holographic reality. A participant in an advanced consciousness study, Sophia, a 38-year-old data scientist, was facing a seemingly insoluble impasse with a complex algorithm. During a holographic decoding session at Kolme, 3am, she clearly saw a 3-dimensional mathematical structure that elegantly solved the problem. It wasn't just a visualization, she reported. It was as if I were directly accessing the underlying mathematical matrix of reality. The solution she implemented revolutionized her field. Marcus, a musician who had suffered from creative block for years, began practicing these techniques during his nighttime awakenings. On the 3rd night, he decoded a complete musical structure that became his most acclaimed composition. The notes didn't come from my brain, he explained. It was as if they already existed in a field of infinite possibilities, and I simply tuned it into them. Perhaps you're thinking, this sounds fascinating, but what if I never wake up at this time? This is a valid observation. Some people are naturally more attuned to these cycles of the energy field, while others need to recalibrate their nervous systems. If you rarely awaken during this period, begin by establishing conscious intention before sleep. You will naturally awaken if there is important information from in the unified field. Avoid alarms. They create a state of startling that inhibits precisely the type of neural coherence needed. Remember, this isn't about forcing or manipulating, but about tuning and aligning. In Talbot's Holographic Universe, egoic willpower is much less effective than harmonic resonance with the underlying informational field. Another common question is, will this work even if I'm skeptical? Absolutely. The beauty of the holographic approach to consciousness is that it doesn't require belief, only direct experience. As Talbot emphasized, holographic reality isn't a poetic metaphor, but a precise description of how the universe fundamentally works. Your conscious skepticism doesn't prevent the deeper structures of your brain from resonating with the unified informational field. This practice isn't just for mystics or New Age enthusiasts. Scientists, artists, entrepreneurs, and innovators in all fields have used variations of these techniques to access insights that transform their fields. The common denominator is the ability to access states of consciousness that transcend the limitations of normal linear brain processing. The truth is that we live in a civilization that has conditioned us to remain trapped in a limited state of consciousness that Michael Talbot would call a restricted holographic consensus. We thought that reality is fixed, external, and indifferent to our deepest intentions. But what if the truth is exactly the opposite? What if, as Talbot suggested, we were actively participating in creating the reality we experience at every moment? Through this approach for coxicum consecutive days, the time neuroscientists have identified as necessary to establish new neural circuits. Don't judge the results immediately. Some nights might produce extraordinary revelations. Others may seem more subtle. What's important is consistent practice and willingness to participate more directly in the holographic nature of reality. Also, observe how your experience during the day begins to change. Many people report a sense of increased energy flow, multiplied meaningful synchronicities, and a feeling of navigating life with much less resistance. Barriers that previously seemed insurmountable begin to reveal inexplicable openings. What do you have to lose? At worst, you'll have dedicated a few minutes of a sleepless night to an interesting contemplative practice. At best, you'll have discovered what Michael Talbot tried to communicate throughout his work, that the reality we perceive is fundamentally holographic, interconnected, and responsive to consciousness in ways that our materialist culture has only begun to understand. The next time you wake between Kolme o'clock and VC o'clock in the morning, instead of checking your phone or turning over frustrated in bed, remember these three techniques: hemispheric synchronization, quantum resonance, and holographic decoding. This simple sequence, applied consistently, could be the gateway to a radically expanded experience of reality that Michael Talbot describes in his visionary work. It's no coincidence that you're reading these words now. According to the holographic view of the universe, there are no coincidences, only resonances in the unified informational field. Perhaps on some level, your consciousness already recognizes the truth of what's being communicated here. Perhaps you've already intuitively felt that these nighttime awakenings contain something deeply significant. The next time your eyes open in the silence of early morning, remember, it's not a random interruption. It's an invitation to participate more consciously in the holographic field of reality. A call to awaken not just from sleep, but to a deeper level of conscious participation in the energetic and informational matrix of the universe. The question is, are you ready to accept this invitation?